Hey guys, welcome back to another one of my videos. Again, I'm doing this live just because it's easier format for me. I wanted to do this video a little bit differently. This is based on some conversations that I also had with some people. And we were talking about the journey of martial arts and what that really means on a personal level. Because when people think of martial arts, they get all kinds of different ideas about what that is. And I know for me, in the almost 40 years I've been training, that my idea of martial arts has evolved and changed. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I mean, it kind of does, but I really think it matters as far as how much experience you have in martial arts. Because I get people coming to me from all kinds of different backgrounds and different ages. And I find sometimes that it doesn't really matter if they're in their 20s or they're in their 30s or they're in their 40s. In the beginning, without any other type of martial arts background, they kind of have a very similar type of mindset. They see martial arts at a very physical level. When I used to teach for a major computer manufacturer way back in the day. They had a fitness center and they wanted me to come in as a contractor and teach martial arts. And so I started teaching martial arts classes there. And it was always interesting because it was always a steady stream of people that would come in. And they were the ones that stuck around compared to the ones that didn't. It was always curious to see why that would be. And what I found out was the majority of the people that would come into class were really looking for something more like a workout or a fitness type of thing, or something that was fun and that they could just do. It really wasn't a big investment that they wanted to make on their part. But the ones that ended up staying either wanted something more from it, or once they came in and started training and they started realizing that there was actually something more here than just a Taibo workout class, and they would stay. But even with that, over time, after a month, 2 months, 3 months, eventually a lot of these people would fade out as well. And I started looking at why that would be. And what I found to be consistent with that is that their original reasons either changed or they weren't really satisfied with what they were getting because it wasn't meeting their original needs. And so, what my point that I'm trying to make about this is that martial arts themselves contain many different types of training. And it's easy in the beginning to look at martial arts in a very physical sense. But when you stay with martial arts and you start to realize that this is actually hard work, I mean, a really true martial arts program should challenge you. It should challenge you at every level. It should challenge you physically. It should challenge you mentally and even emotionally, because you're dealing with some things that get revealed through training. And this is kind of my point on this video, is that there's a thing that I talk about in my classes, but we talk about the mirror, the martial arts mirror. It's this mirror that you see yourself with when you're in training and you step out on the mat, and whether you're facing an opponent or you're just practicing on the bag or whatever, there's a point where you start to see things about yourself. You're confronting your fear. For some people, that confrontation happens the second they actually try to walk through the doors for the first time. They're confronting their fear. They're confronting their misconceptions or misunderstandings about what it is that the martial art has. Maybe they have some idea in their head. Maybe they've seen kung fu videos or something, or maybe they belong to another martial arts class and it was a horrible experience. Or on the flip side, maybe they moved from somewhere and they had a fantastic experience with the school, but they're not able to go there anymore. So they come walking into yours, and that's their filter, that they're expecting something that is similar to what their old experiences are, and maybe they don't experience that, or they experience something different. But what happens with that is that it really, just as much as it becomes a physical battle, it also becomes a mental battle. I remember when I was in the military, something that we used to always say all the time, and something that I was taught and we would say to our trainees all the time, is that When put under duress like that, your mind is what quits before your body does. Every time your mind will quit before your body does, because it's the people that know how to turn that off switch on and keep it on, and don't give in to that tendency to want to back off or give up. Those are the people that start to realize they actually can do more than they originally thought. That's why, as an instructor in the military, you're pushing guys beyond what they think they can do. You're making them run till they puke. You're making them do push-ups till they face slam on the ground. But then you're saying, keep going, even if they throw up. You tell them, just and then you go. If the muscles fail and they drop trying to do a push-up, you tell them, get up, and they can do one more. And that's my point, is that the body is resilient and the body can keep going, but we all hate discomfort. And so the level of discomfort starts playing in our heads, and that discomfort starts becoming the focal point in our mind. And when we focus on how uncomfortable we are, then it becomes easy to start rationalizing quitting. It becomes easy to say, oh, I'm tired. I think I've done enough. Example would be, maybe in class, your instructor has you do a particular punch, maybe 1,000 times repetitiously. And that takes a long time. And maybe you get to 100, 200, but then the mind starts wandering and you start thinking about other things. You start thinking about maybe how boring this is, especially if you see other people in the class and they're training. And so it becomes this battle of the mind of who is in control. Because at the base of your brain, at the I don't mean physically, but at the base of your mind is your consciousness. And that consciousness is really truly the driver's seat to your mind. And you choose to stop or keep going. And the trick is that you have all these other voices and things going on in your mind when you face these struggles and challenges, but you decide if you want to stay in the driver's seat or if you're going to let those other voices jump in and take over. And that's what we see in martial arts training, is that you are faced with that part of yourself. You're faced with the part that says it's good enough. I've done enough. I'm ready for something else. And real growth and breakthrough only happens when you know how to turn that off and just do one more. Just keep going. Because in my experience, the biggest breakthroughs in training and personal growth always happen through right on the other side of the biggest struggle. And so the more struggle you are facing, the harder things get, and the more difficult and the more mentally draining and emotionally draining things are, the more resistance you're getting. That means you're getting closer and closer to something really big happening. And I use an example of coming to class, not really wanting to be there. I'm fighting my own laziness, lack of motivation. Maybe I had a bad day, something like that. And I really don't feel like going, but I go anyway. And in my experience, and I've shared this with a lot of guys, and they tell me this is the same for them. Those days that you didn't feel like going were actually the days that you ended up getting the most out of the class. You ended up going into beast mode, or there was something that happened in class that was like a light bulb went off and it was transformational to your training. So if you had given in, or if I'd given in to that, I don't feel like going tonight, I'm just not with it, or whatever, I would have missed all of that. And so the battle of the mind becomes more important than the battle of your opponent. And that's the biggest lesson here. And what I have found is that, well, my study of human behavior, human psychology, and that sort of thing, and emotional development, et cetera, in my studies of all of that, there's a common term they call shadow work, or it's facing your shadow. And what that means is that those are the things about you that are uncomfortable. They're the things about you that are you don't like them, or you're fearful of them, or maybe you're angry about them, or hurt in some way. And it's parts of you that maybe you've suppressed, maybe you've tried to hide, ignore, whatever. You just don't, yeah, you just don't like it. And we don't like to face things that are uncomfortable. But that shadow part of ourselves we take with us everywhere we go, including our martial arts class. And when you're faced with duress, when you're faced with challenges, that's when those things become revealed. That's when that dark side of yourself becomes revealed. And what's even more interesting is that it's not the it's not even the challenges you face that reveal the biggest darkness in you or the biggest weaknesses about yourself. It's when you succeed, the success. And you see this with people who gain rank. They gain some popularity, or they get some recognition or a new certificate or a title or something like that. And you watch the ego just boom. And they become terrible people. Nobody ends up liking that behavior because they're egotistical and self-centered, or they bloviate on themselves, and they take pride in themselves, which on its own is okay, but when they do it in a point of elitism, or that they elevate themselves to be like this supreme person, those are all reflective of their shadow. That's all reflected of some sort of deep wound they have in them, this need for recognition, this need for approval, or something like that. So the challenges in class, when you face an opponent who whoops your butt, that also causes you to have to face your own ego, because just as success will build your ego, getting whooped on in class also affects your ego, because now it's like, oh, my ego is bruised, and you have to deal with that. And for some people who haven't resolved those things about themselves, they can become very angry. They can become spiteful, or maybe they're too busy making excuses about why they don't do so well about something. Like the old idea, oh, the sun got my eyes, or something like that. When in fact you just need to practice more. Um, And so this shadow part of yourself gets revealed through training. And that's the part that people can't handle. And and even myself included, I've had to face these things about myself many times in my training, and it sucks. I've embarrassed myself so much. And I mean, I won't go into huge stories, but I've done things and like walked away and thought, oh my God, I don't want to come back. I just felt so stupid. And I mean, it's part of human nature that we do that. And it's through our mistakes that we learn. It's through the challenges that we learn. We don't learn by success. We learn by failure. And so that type of process of working to fail is what's going to take you to the next level. Levels of success are built on how the failures that it takes to get there, because trial and error is where you really truly build something great. Um, in martial arts, it really is about that. You come in making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. When you learn a technique, you're never going to do it right the first time. You're never going to do it right the 100th time, the 1,000th time. There's always going to be something that either is wrong or can be improved. So nothing is ever perfect. And this perfectionism mentality is what really creates frustrations with a lot of people in training. And that's why burnout rates happen in training, because people come in and they're in a hurry and they want to just get good really fast, because they don't want to be that imperfect person, that they don't want to be constantly making mistakes. I mean, they want to hurry up and get through that process so they can be good at what they do. And that means their focus is on this and not this, because it's through this that you really truly learn and develop. And the more time you can spend in that process, the greater that reward's going to be. And that's the big lesson. It's the same when you face your shadow. The more time you can spend really digging deep into yourself, into your behaviors, your habits. Why do you do what you do? Why do you respond the way you respond to certain situations? What triggers you and why? And what is it that is what is it? What is your response to those triggers? Is it anger, jealousy, fear, ambition? What triggers that? Um, And then you have to look at why that is. Why do you place value on what other people think of you? Why are you placing so much value on trying to get that patch on your uniform or having the next rank certificate? What does it matter? Does that make you a good martial artist? But what does that even mean to be a good martial artist? See, these are questions that are really important. And in the beginning, you're not going to really think about that. But later in life, when you're training long enough, when you're sitting by yourself after class and you're thinking about how the class night went, these are some of the thoughts that you're going to start encountering. And the answers to those questions are going to change throughout your time. And it's okay. They're meant to change because your level of understanding is going to change. What you find to be important is going to change. And what you want to get out of the training is going to change. Back in my teens and 20s and everything, I wanted to compete, be strong, and do all this stuff. But now I'm in my 50s and I just want to be able to keep my life happy and healthy. And I want to be able to continue to explore and learn. Um, and and so there's differences in how you approach these things, but I think every one of those also reveals something about yourself too. Your reasons why for doing anything is a big mirror that's in front of you. That if you truly ask yourself why, like you think of like the little kid, why is this? Why is that? Why is that? Well, if you do that with yourself, why do you feel that way? I don't know. Makes me angry. Why does it make you angry? I don't know. See, anytime you hit I don't know, that's your gap in learning. That's like saying, how do I do this wrist twist? I don't know. So guess what I'm going to be learning now as a martial arts student? I'm going to be learning how to do a wrist twist. Why? Because I don't know and I want to know it. Because that same drive to want to learn and grow should exist in learning and growing about you as a person too. And when you pursue your martial arts from that level where it's about you facing yourself and you finding the things that you need to work on in you, instead of focusing on what other people think, comparing yourself to other people in class, looking at some silly piece of paper on the wall and saying, I want that, instead of looking at all these things outside of you, if you really just reverse that and start looking at things inside of you and start asking the hard questions of yourself and start exploring why is it important for me to get this belt rank? Why is it important for me to even learn this martial art? What is it about this particular martial art that really matters to me? So that facing yourself is what's going to develop you in a way that's going to not only make you better in your business life, personal life, etc., but I think it's also connected to the relationship you have with yourself. And there's another video where I talked about the three kinds of relationships in martial arts. And this ties in very heavy with that because as you define these things and you learn to turn the light on those shadow parts about yourself, you start to learn to be more accepting of yourself. And as you learn to invest in those parts of yourself and you learn to grow, your relationship to your art will also evolve and grow. Your relationship with your teachers and your peers, that will also improve and grow. And your relationship with yourself will also improve. And together, all three of those create a very dynamic force that can take you through all those challenges that you're going to face in the class, in your training. And the big plus to that is that same fortitude, that same endurance to keep going and succeed will also apply to every other part of your life as well, because it all works together. Martial arts were never designed to stay inside of a dojo or Gojang or whatever you call it. It was never designed to be limited to a funny uniform and a colored belt and paper on the wall. It was never meant to be that way. Martial arts were meant to be a personal experience, a personal journey of your own self. And it started out in periods of warfare, but it really, if you look at the bigger picture, martial arts are about conflict. It's about conflict. But then you got to ask yourself, where's the real conflict? So that's the big lesson. If martial arts are about dealing with conflict, then why not deal with the biggest conflict? which is not the one outside of you. It's the one in here. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I hope this at least gave you some things to think about. These are just kind of my musings, things that I've been journaling about for a long time, and talking to different people in different martial arts, and finding that we all think about kind of the same things. But please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video and any other videos that I have on there. And definitely leave me some comments if this has stirred any kind of thinking, or you want to share anything. I certainly welcome that. It's a learning process for all of us. So I definitely welcome any constructive comments that you might have. So anyway, thanks again for watching. And as I say all the time, be happy, be healthy, and no matter what, keep going. Keep going. So don't ever lose your focus. Your reasons might change, but that drive and passion still has to be there. And you need to stay connected to that. So again, stay happy, stay healthy, keep training. Thank you.